Hello friends! Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my January wrap-up video. So I read 7 books in January, which for me, I usually average about 4 books a month. 7's very big for me, so I'm really happy with the amount I've read this year so far. I mean, I would have been happy regardless, 1 book, 7 books, it doesn't really matter, but as a little personal accomplishment, I think it's been a really good reading month. I did have a full week off work last week, so I managed to get quite a bit of reading done then. Before we get to the books, if you have seen any of my other videos, you've probably noticed that this is a bit of a different setting than normal. I am working from home on my own today, so I thought I would film in my living room just because there's a lot more light and I think it's a bit of a nicer background, to be fair. So yeah, welcome to my living room. This is where I actually get most of my reading done. So it's in this very spot that I got most of this reading done. So before I dive into the books that I actually read in January, I started using Storygraph this year and have decided to look more in depth at my reading stats because it's something that really interests me, but I've never bothered logging before, and I absolutely do not use Goodreads to its full sort of ability. And also Goodreads is not the best app, as we all well know. So before I jump into the books, I'm going to look at my reading stats because I've not actually done that yet. So like I say, I read 7 books. My overall goal for the year is 50. I had the same goal last year and only just met it, so I didn't think to increase it. And I think 50 is a really good amount of books to read in one year. So with those 7 books, I am now 14% of the way in. Most of my sort of moods were adventurous, emotional, tense, mysterious, and dark, which I think when we go through the books, you will see that that is actually spot on. I read 2,834 pages, so which I think is pretty decent. And then my average rating was 4.21 because I read some amazing books in January. So with that, let's actually talk about the books. So just a disclaimer, 2 of these books, and they will be the first 2 that I spoke about, I actually started in December but didn't finish while January. So this isn't every single full book that I read in January. This is just books that I finished in January. The first of which is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. And this is a sci-fi space opera slash love story slash mystery slash political thriller, which I really liked. I gave it 4 stars. I absolutely loved the main 2 characters, and the plot follows them. And this is where I try to explain a sci-fi novel and do a really bad job of it. But basically, the plot follows Prince Kiem, who is kind of the grandchild of this emperor, and she has like 40 grandkids or something. Like, it's not like a lovely cozy family, it's kind of more like a political thing. And this emperor obviously overrules this empire of planets, and to keep one of the planets sort of as part of the empire for a reason that I really can't remember, part of the treaty means that a representative from the main planet and this smaller planet need to be married to keep trade good and just keep all the political vibes tip top. So we follow Prince Kiem, and the book literally opens with Prince Kiem being told that because his cousin has died, he now has to marry his cousin's husband. So his cousin's husband is called Count Janin, and they had this marriage that looked pretty good from the outside. Everyone thought that they were super happy, but you come to learn that I thought it was pretty clear, like early on, that that just wasn't the case. And it kind of brings up the questions of how happy can an arranged marriage be? And I know this is sort of a much wider topic that I cannot speak on whatsoever, but it did get me thinking about that kind of issue of being told that you have to marry someone not out of love, but out of complete sort of business transaction, essentially. So I thought that was super interesting because we get to explore that through Prince Kiem. And what I really liked about him and what was different about this story for me was that there wasn't like an act of rebellion from him. He kind of went with the flow and understood what was needed. And he was so soft and so lovely and was kind of immediately concerned with making sure that Janin was comfortable and okay. And I found that super interesting. And we just get some really nice moments between the two, because they're never sort of enemies as such, but they're complete strangers. They've never met, or if they have met, it's very brief. Like they've never spoken properly before. So it was very interesting just to see sort of how those two kind of came together and dealt with this situation. And then on top of that, you had the mystery of Kiam's cousin and Janen's ex-husband, his death slash disappearance, and what all that meant. And you got to really delve into that as well. I thought this book was so layered and so rich with so much going on. And the reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because at times I did feel a bit confused and a bit overwhelmed. And I don't know whether that was anything to do with the story and how much was going on, or if it was just the fact that sometimes sci-fi can get like that. I feel like with sci-fi, I do struggle to get my head around things, and I'm a visual reader. So when I read, I try and sort of visualize it in my head to understand it. And I do struggle to do that sometimes with sci-fi. I think because things just get so vast and there's different planets and there's different sort of worlds and things like that, it can be difficult just to keep on track. So for me, it was a really good book. Obviously, it's queer, which is just a big bonus anyway. And then I just thought that the character work was just really, really good. Kiam and Jaden are, honest to God, like an amazing, amazing pair. And I just loved seeing their sort of story progress. And there were some really, really cute soft moments. I know I've already said that, but there really, really were. So I would definitely recommend this. So the next 2 books are books that I have spoken about a lot in January. And it's definitely a new favourite series / a new favourite author. So these are the books that probably got me well into that 2,000 pages mark and kept that 4.21 rating up there. The first book is one that I started in December and then finished in January, and that is Royal Assassin. And then straight after Royal Assassin, I picked up Assassin's Quest. So both of these are by Robin Hobb, and they are books 2 and 3 in the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings. I've spoken about these quite at length, so I won't go into too much detail about these because it's kind of getting repetitive at this point. But Royal Assassin, I really enjoyed. I struggled with the pacing a bit, especially in the middle, and just kind of getting through and understanding the world a bit more. It's much longer than book 1, so I think that was kind of my first hurdle. But from like the halfway point onwards, I was very much in there. The characters are great, and we've got some really, really good development of the characters, especially Queen Ketrican, who is one of my absolute faves. So yeah, really, really good book. And made me really realise how good of a character writer Robin Hobb really is. Then Assassin's Quest, I have done a full vlog on this, so I will just link the vlog if you want to get my full thoughts on this. But I thought this was an absolutely incredible end to the trilogy and a really good setup for future books within this. Not just fits this storyline, but just the universe in general. I thought it really cracked the world right open, and I just can't wait for more. A big chunky one, I gave this 5 stars. I gave Royal Assassin 4.5 stars, I think, just because of the pacing issues that I found. Whereas this, there was no issues for me within this. I really, really, really enjoyed it from start to finish. Incredible, incredible start to the month, if you ask me, with those 3 books, just one after the other. It was always going to be a really good reading month. After all of the sci-fi and the fantasy and the heaviness and the political intrigue, I just needed something a bit softer. So that's when I started to look at middle grade for a bit of light relief. So the first middle grade book that I read was Tunnel of Bones by V.E. Schwab. So this is the 3rd book in the Cassidy Blake series. This series follows Cassidy Blake, who is a young teenager. I think she's 13, maybe 12, and she can see ghosts. She basically had a near-death experience that put her to the other side, but then was saved by a ghost called Jacob, I think. And he kind of brought her back into the living world, and it kind of opened a connection between her world and the spirit world, and now she can see ghosts wherever she goes. And yeah, I enjoyed book 1 and 2. I read those last year, but the series has felt like it's getting progressively worse for me. Book 3 is set in New Orleans, so this was the one that I was most excited about because I'm obsessed with New Orleans. I've never been. I really, really want to go. So I was super excited to read this. And I think the vibes were there. These books are quite creepy in parts, and the world building elements were really good, especially with the secret society aspect that we're finding more out about. And I did enjoy that. I didn't really care for the main story. I just found it a bit boring and a bit dull. And I found myself getting quite annoyed at the characters, which obviously I am 25 years old. These characters are 12. That's to be expected. This book is not for me, for my age range anyway. So I was fine at like, I could sort of make allowances for that, but yeah, I just didn't have the best time. And to be honest, I find some of the writing in places to be quite lazy. I've read V. Schwab's Dark Shade of Magic trilogy, whatever that's called, and I thought it was good. I know a lot of people like her writing style and love some of her other books. Um, and I just find the Cassidy Blake series can be very lazy in parts, and she relies so much on Harry Potter references. And you know what? Before J.K. Rowling outed herself as like a huge turf, fair enough. Even then, though, I say fair enough, but I don't mean it because, like, why are you using so many references? And when I'm saying so many, it's like so many references to somebody else's work within yours, and just being okay with that. Like, it's really weird to me. It does not sit right. And it's just now, as somebody who was a huge Harry Potter fan and has obviously had to reevaluate my relationship with that entire series and the author attached to it. Every time I hear like a reference or it comes up, my toes would curl, and then I kind of get like, and then I could kind of see it coming. I always knew there was going to be, oh, like this or referencing this spell, and I was just a bit like, okay, whatever. So yeah, that definitely impacted my reading experience. I gave it 3 stars though, believe it or not, because like I said, the vibes were great. The side characters, I do really enjoy the side characters within each story because they tend to be different. Because basically the series follows Cassidy over one summer as she's traveling around different countries with her parents. So it's, yeah, it kind of very much reminds me of like a cartoon I would watch as a kid. I do get those like kind of nostalgic, spooky Mona the Vampire vibes, but book 3 just definitely was not as enjoyable as the other installments. Speaking of middle grade books that weren't as good as previous installments, I read Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Now, no shade to the series because I think this series does so much of what a lot of other books don't. Even now, I know it's been out for a while, I know it gets a lot of hype, but I do believe it deserves the hype. I've not read the Percy Jackson books until now. I read book 1 last year at some point, and then I picked up book 2 because again I wasn't feeling ready for like anything heavy or anything big. So I am definitely using the Percy Jackson books as kind of like reprieves in between other bigger books. And I already know that after some of my February reads that I'm planning on picking up, I'll probably pick up book 3 just to have a bit of a breather. So the Sea of Monsters basically follows Percy and Annabeth as they go to rescue Grover, who is seemingly trapped on some kind of island. And also Camp Half-Blood is in disarray because there is a poison running through the camp that's breaking down the magical barriers that stop monsters from invading and attacking the campers. The Greek mythology woven throughout these books is so fun, and I love seeing Rick Riordan. Is that how you say it? I love seeing Rick Riordan kind of take liberties where he can. Um, I love Greek mythology anyway. I read quite a lot of it, and having read Saoirse and becoming more understanding of her sort of story from Madeline Miller's perspective, it was really interesting to see how Rick Riordan um, perceived Saoirse, because in Greek mythology she was cast as a witch and she was a bit of a villain, regardless of what Madeline Miller decided to write in her book. I don't have an opinion. The stories. The only thing I am sort of certain on is that Achilles and Patroclus were friends, really good friends. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Such good adventure books, and literally it just keeps you turning the page. Like the way that the way that the chapters are structured, and even the chapter names, they're just super exciting and quite difficult to put down. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first book, so I gave this one 3 stars as well. It wasn't a bad book in any way, but it also wasn't the best book compared to The Lightning Thief. But still super excited to carry on with the series. I have no idea what the rest of the books are about because I'd seen the film when I was younger of The Lightning Thief, and then I remember seeing promos and stuff for the film of The Sea of Monsters before those films died a death. Rest in peace. So yeah, I've no idea where the story goes. I've no idea what happens with the characters, but just super excited to find out. So the last two books on this list are rereads, and I did these completely on audio. So just as a bit of a side and a bit of a flex, I decided to start going to the gym this year. Just want to kind of get in shape and change my body type a little bit. So whilst at the gym, I knew that I would need something that was interesting to listen to, and I hate working out. I absolutely hate exercise. So I needed something that would be a distraction where I could just work out and do what I needed to do and not focus on what I was actually doing and just let my body take over so I could focus on a book. So I was looking through Scribd to see what I could listen to next and what I could read next. And then I realised that towards the end of last year, I found the Hunger Games trilogy on Scribd and had them saved down. And I was a big Hunger Games fan back in the day. I read the books and watched the films and still stand by the fact that Catching Fire is one of the best book to film adaptations ever made. And it just felt like the right time. It really did feel like the right time. I was really interested in rereading these to see what me as an adult would feel like, because I loved them when I read them as a teenager. I have watched the films multiple times since and always enjoyed them when I watched them, but I didn't know if I would enjoy the books as much. So I started reading The Hunger Games, and when I very first read it back in the day, I remember just like absolutely flying through it. And that happened again, and I gave it a 5 stars because I absolutely love that book. It's just so good. It's so interesting. Suzanne Collins really did that. Like for me, it's just YA perfection. There are probably a lot of issues with it, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation. But I had the best time. Like I had such a fun time reading it, and I finished it in like 2 days. And then I started Catching Fire. Literally, I finished the Hunger Games and pressed play on Catching Fire like within that minute. Because even though I knew how it ended, I was really excited to get to Catching Fire. So I read both of those in January. I am on the last few chapters of Mockingjay now, but we're in February, so I've got to, class it as Feb, I guess. But yeah, I'm having the best time. I'm going to do a full video on the Hunger Games because I've got a bit of an idea of what I want to do. And I just want to give sort of my updated thoughts on the trilogy looking from an adult perspective. But spoiler, it's going to be really positive because I just love them. I really do. But yeah, I'm super glad I read both of those because they're just excellent books and they both got 5 stars. So I'm really happy with how January turned out and just hope the same can be said for February. I've got some really exciting books lined up for Feb, and I'll link my my February TBR at the end of this. But so far so good. I'm feeling really positive about 2022. And although I just want to meet my 50 target, I'd be obsessed if I got to exceed that. Like, if I can keep up 7 books a month, I mean, I'm winning, but I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Okay, that is my January wrap up. If you've got this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you have read any of these books, or if any of these books are on your TBR for the rest of the year, please leave me a comment or consider subscribing. Or if you want to chat about books on social, all of my social links are below. So please feel free to drop me a follow or a message and let's talk about books. And with that being said, have a good day and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.